started off as a social media platform. Honestly, it just started off as a passion project that I had of promoting networking events happening here in Indianapolis. If you don't know, there are a lot of opportunities to get engaged with the different networks, whether they are identity-based or industry-based. There are so many opportunities out there for you to just get connected. But then, of course, Indy Networking has evolved, and now I not only promote events, but I also curate some of my own events as well. And I also help organizations and companies also build community through networking, whether they want to connect internally or with people externally. So our vision at Indy Networking is to really create a thriving and inclusive networking system in Indy and beyond. And our mission is just to empower communities to connect authentically through culturally aligned events and networking strategies. So that's why I'm here today, to really encourage you and empower you to learn what the power of networking is. How do you leverage it? And yeah, how do you make sure that you use this to get to your career goals as well? Awesome. So let's see if it moves. There we go. So today I have a quick agenda just so you know what we'll be walking through. So first, I'll be defining what networking and social capital is. So I think everyone here probably has an idea of what networking really entails, but what does it mean for networking to lead to social capital, which is what's super important here. Next, we're going to recognize the value of effective networking. So when you do it right, what do you get out of networking, and what's that impact that it has not only on your personal, but also, or not only on your professional life, but also in your personal life. And then lastly, networking essentials, a beginner's guide. So I'll kind of share with you, what are some things to keep in mind as you're starting out your networking journey, or as you begin to be a bit more intentional on how you network. And then, of course, hopefully we'll have time for questions and answers. And then Winnie, let me know, when maybe I have like a 10-minute mark, just in case I am running out of time. So you'll keep me honest there. Awesome. So defining networking and social capital. So when we think of networking, if people can, I don't think I can really see everyone on the screen who's here. So if you just want to kind of shout it out, maybe I'll be able to see in the comments. But when you think of networking, what comes to mind? And no wrong answers. Or what makes networking challenging for you? Because I know networking can be intimidated. So why may it be challenging for you? And it's okay. Okay, it's scary. I will say that. So so if that's how you feel, if you feel intimidated about, networking, I totally. Okay, Kyla said it intimidates me because I either talk too much or too little. Yes, I think that is definitely something that you kind of have to navigate depending on the type of person. Yes, moving past small talk. Awesome. Yes, I love that because depending who you are interacting with, you really have to figure out, how do you approach this person? Are they a talker? So then that means you're just a good listener, or are they not, maybe are they just do small talk, so you kind of have to be the person that is intentionally keeping the conversation going. But ultimately, right, networking is the act of building connections by meeting people, attending events, and exchanging information. It's about making those initial contacts. So networking is the act of doing it. That's how I kind of think of it. It's the act of, going to the events, of exchanging contact information, of, following up with people to connect with them because you found something that you can relate to them, or they're an expert in a certain industry that you want to learn more about. So networking is just the act of really getting to know different people. But social capital is the value and trust that comes from relationships built over time. So through networking, you can go to as many events as you want. You can have as many connections on LinkedIn. You can have as many friends as you want. But what ultimately matters is the value that is translated from those connections. So what makes networking evolve to social capital is the intentionality behind actually building and investing in those relationships that you have made those initial contacts with. So when we talk about social capital, when we talk about the value and the trust, what does that really look like? So it looks like you, for example, being able to reach out and leverage Whitney to potentially get a job, right? Because you know that there is value in Winnie's role that she has, but also I'm assuming, right, that you have known Winnie for a while now, and she knows you. She knows the intention behind you showing up today to listen in on this presentation. She knows that you have certain goals, right? And that's because you have built that relationship over time. You're connecting with her. You're sharing your progress on your career, on your goals. You're telling her, hey, these are some challenges that I'm going through, and you're maybe obtaining resources and advice from her or others from the organization, right? So building those relationships over time is key to social capital, because at the end of the day, you will get to a point where these individuals will be able to offer you something. Again, that could be just in general opportunities, whether that's a job, whether that's introducing you to leadership programs, introducing you to board opportunities. So again, that is kind of what makes networking evolve to social capital, is really being intentional behind building those relationships. Any questions there, or any comments, any reactions to kind of, being able to differentiate between networking and social capital? And feel free to put them on the comments, because it looks like they are popping up so I can see them in case anyone is wants to do that. And I will say, I did not know about social capital until like a few years ago, because I was all about networking. I was all about making connections with people, but didn't realize that over time, as I was following up with people, that I was actually building social capital through the trusted relationships that I was receiving. Okay, so no questions or comments. So this quote here, I think, really entails the difference between networking and social capital. This is a good quote to screenshot if you want a reminder. So it's not just who you know, but who knows you and is willing to advocate for you, right? Once again, through networking, within that journey, what you're really doing is you're telling people who you are, what your goals are, and what you're all about. And when people truly know that about you and you're doing it authentically and intentionally, people will remember those small details. So when opportunities come up or you're asking someone to advocate for you, they will have a strong case to be able to do that. Another quote here. I love quotes. A network can get you in the room. Social capital helps you stay there and thrive. So again, those initial connections are important, but what social capital does, it really gives you credibility and really sustains you within those opportunities that you're being introduced to. Awesome. So I'm going to kind of double click on the evolving of networking to building trust and to social capital. So once again, networking really entails just expanding on your networking and enhancing your current connections, right? Everyone here has a network, whether it's through the organization that you are a part of completing this program, whether it's your employer, whether you're in a fraternity or sorority, or you are really involved in certain community organizations here locally, your church, right? All of those different entities are part of your network. So everyone here at the end of the day has some sort of foundational network because you all have current connections. Then what does building trust look like? Is making sure that those connections are genuine. So what does that mean on your end, right? Making sure that you are following up with people. So for example, if you meet someone at an event and you really clicked with that person, you're like, I like the vibes, I really want to learn more about this person, or you see something in them that really connects to your goals. You're like, this person seems to be doing very well within their industry that I'm interested in breaking into, or that I am currently in. I want to learn more from their journey, how they are so successful, right? You see that they, can offer value, right? So you follow up with them. You say, hey, Joe, it was really great meeting you at the Indy Networking event. I would love to follow up to learn more about your career journey. Would you be able to meet virtually or in person? More than happy to, buy you a coffee or something, right? So the great thing about today's world, right, is that, if you are shy and you maybe get intimidated by showing up in person for the first time, you can definitely offer the virtual option, and that makes it easier. So following up is super important because you need to show that interest in people, that you want to invest in them. And then offering value. I think a lot of people really sometimes really question, like, what does it mean for me to offer value when maybe I don't feel like I do, or when I feel like it is transactional when, you think of offering value. But offering value honestly really means doing your homework. And I know that maybe sounds kind of weird, but when you're following up with these people and you meet with them and you say, hey, you know, you start sharing about yourself. You're like, hey, these are my career goals. This is what I'm striving to do, right? And they tell you, okay, Maria, here are 2 connections that I want you to reach out to. Or, hey, Maria, well, I have an event coming up. You should come to this event. Or if they say, hey, you should read this book that I recommend because I got a lot of value out of it. And you go and do that, you go do exactly what they've recommended you to do, and you follow up with them once again, and you're like, hey, Joe, thank you so much for connecting me to so and so. I really got a lot of value out of that conversation. This is what I learned, right? So that's how you show value, because that means that you're committed. That means that you are willing to follow up. And it means that you are being intentional, once again, about investing in that relationship. It shows that you're not about to waste no one's time, right? Because again, you are all about your goals and about your career goals. So that's what I mean when I say offering value, right? Is making sure that you're doing the homework that they've spent, right? They spent an hour, 30 minutes meeting with you. They gave you, they gave you some advice and recommendations, and you went and did it. They're like, okay, like this person is all about, willing to do, what it takes to, or is willing to accept advice and guidance. So any questions or comments there? Because I know offering value sometimes can be confusing, or once again, you feel like it's transactional. Okay. And again, feel free to add questions or comments throughout the presentation. Um, okay, awesome. Next, social capital. So once again, this leads then to access to certain opportunities and honestly, just overall a return of investment. Oh, I got a question here. So let's see how. Oh, or Winnie, do you mind reading the comment? I think it just. Thank you.
How soon after you meet someone should you follow up, and how often should you reach out to that connection to remain relevant to them?
Yes, that is a great question. Thank you for asking that. Yes, honestly, the day after. I would say max 2 days, right? Like if you are, feel confident like this person, would be someone great to connect with, like I would do it, the day after, maximum 2 days after, right? I mean, you can definitely follow up with them maybe a week later and so forth, but just so that it's fresh on their minds, it's good. It's best practice to follow up with them the night after the event or wherever you met them. And then from there, right, depending if you identify this person as a mentor or just someone who you want to stay connected with, following up means not necessarily only meeting in person, over coffee, over lunch. Like you don't have to necessarily schedule that. But following up means if you have their contact information, whether it's their email or their phone number, it means just being like, hey, Joe, like, once again, like, thank you so much again for connecting me to this person. Like, this has led me to learn about X, Y, and Z. Or if they say something they share something personal about themselves and they were like, oh, yep, like I have my daughter's soccer game coming up, right? That can be a way of following up, is through those things that you can relate to or through those personal things that they have shared with you. And again, following up, again, doesn't have to be in person. It could really be an email or a text message or even a phone call, and just kind of giving them updates on how you're progressing. And it could be quarterly. Again, if you've identified this person as a mentor, that first meeting you could potentially, or following that meeting that you had with them, you could potentially be like, hey, I really see a lot of value in what you do, who you are. I am currently looking for a mentor. Would you be willing to meet on a quarterly basis or on a monthly basis, right? And you can ask them like, I am flexible with what your availability is. So hopefully that answers your question. There is no right or wrong answer. It just depends on who this person is, their personality, and also their availability, because you meet some really cool people, but they only have 15 minutes for you, right? And that's okay. That means that they are still willing to invest those 15 minutes with you. So just depending on who they are, you can kind of reflect and think on, okay, like, is this person someone who I can text, who I can call, or who would prefer to meet virtually or in person? Awesome. Okay. So like I mentioned, social capital, when you really start to see the return of investment on people, is when you start to see opportunities being shared with you, them kind of bringing you under their wing, or them just thinking of you for, certain events, certain programs, certain job opportunities, right? I will say, right, with anything, um, your return on investment won't be immediate, right? I think what you immediately get insight on people's career journeys, on the advice that they initially give you. But when it comes to potentially getting recommended for a job, or you being able to ask for a referral for a job, it takes time, just because, once again, someone who I meet, right, I need to make sure that I trust you to show up as you are, because I have had people, send me LinkedIn messages being like, "Hey Maria, like, I really want to work at Lilly. Like, can you connect me to the hiring manager? And I'm over here like, oh my gosh, like I would love to, right? But when you think of networking, right? So I'm connected to Winnie. Winnie now has access to my network. I have access to Winnie's network, right? But because there's that connection, right? Maybe if I do something and Winnie has introduced me, let's say, to her boss, and I end up not showing up, like I should, then that could potentially impact Winnie's reputation, right? Or her brand, right? They're gonna be like, oh, like who does Winnie hang out with, right? So similar to, other interactions, people can really, really attach other people's brand to your brand based on who you're connected with. And I know that sounds kind of like, oh, like, why does that really matter, right? But at the end of the day, it does, right? Like when it comes to building your network, when it comes to building your community, like you really want to be surrounded by people who share somewhat, right, the same values as you, someone who is going to be your advocate, someone who's going to be your biggest supporter, someone who is going to be willing to share opportunities with you. And it's not necessarily people are going to gatekeep opportunities, because that will never necessarily be the case when it comes to intentional networking, right? But once again, people really want to know who you truly are. What are your goals? Because people really want to be able to intentionally connect you to opportunities. Like I just don't want to connect anyone to anyone, right? Because I want to make sure that there's going to be value in those connections. So again, that is what ends up leading to social capital when you have truly built that trust with that person. And I will say some people, it's easier for them to be like, to just full on, right, share everything with you. And that's phenomenal. I've met people like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like you are the best, right? But I will say, right, that they are trusting you to be willing to be intentional about taking on those opportunities. Any questions or comments there? Hopefully you find this, interesting, right? This idea that building trust and being intentional about who you're connecting with really makes a difference. Okay. So recognizing the value of effective networking. So I think, you already have an idea, right, that networking gives you access to opportunities. But there are other areas that you should consider as you're networking with people. And actually, I'm going to skip this here. There we go. So we mentioned access to opportunities. Like I mentioned, that means jobs, leadership programs, board opportunities, even volunteer opportunities, and so forth. The second thing is knowledge expansion. As you're connecting with people, right, depending on the industry that you are at, it's key to really keep up with the trends, to keep up with what you have to be aware of and mindful of in an evolving industry. When you think of the tech industry, right? I'm not in tech, right? I've dabbled a bit with some of my network, but when you think of the tech industry, you have to really be informed on what certifications you have to stay up to date with. Are there certain programs that are key to keeping up with the industry's focus areas of like AI, or certain software, right? Or certain leaders in the community that are doing amazing things, and you want to, stay up to date. So knowledge expansion is key. So as you're meeting with people, right, one cool thing to really ask people is like, what was your career journey, right? How did you land this career opportunity? Was this something that you initially thought that you were going to be in? Did you even major? Did you even have a a relevant major for what you do now, right? Because as they share about their career journey, they really share a lot of key insights on how they've navigated challenges. Especially for, for women or for people of color, right? Us knowing those specific challenges that may show up when we're navigating our careers is super important. For me personally, that has been huge. I'm first generation. I'm the oldest of four. And so when I was connecting with a lot of people, I would be very vulnerable with people, and I would be like, hey, I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I know nothing. We can at least relate, right? I would meet with a lot of Latino professionals, and I would be like, I know we're Latino. I'm assuming you're first gen. A lot of people were first gen as well. And they would just share their stories with me. And so I started to take note of a lot of things, a lot of challenges that they would come across, right? And me even just having the insight that, like, okay, that's a challenge. I know that's a challenge. So when I come across that challenge, I'm gonna do this instead of this, right? Or this is how I'm going to navigate it. Or, hey, I know that I can call Rafael to talk about this challenge I'm going through because he went through it, right? So when I talk about knowledge expansion, I don't just mean, right, like their expertise in the industry, but I also mean just like their insights on how they've navigated life as someone who is in that industry. Again, this bucket right here has been, super impactful for me, because I've just had an increased awareness of the reality of some of those bumps that I might run into. But at least I know someone who has been there and done that, and now I can reach out to them, which leads me to the support system, right? As you're building your network, you're truly creating a community. You're truly building a community that is hopefully going to be there for you throughout, your different chapters of your life, whether, you're in college, whether, you are currently looking for a job, or you're excelling in your career. A support system is huge. I don't know if anyone here has heard of, build your own board of directors, right? So every organization, every nonprofit, and every company has their own board of directors. These board of directors give guidance to these organizations and to these companies to ensure that, the company and the organization is successful, and that they are, you know, that they are doing everything by the books, right? So building your own board of directors means that I am connecting with different people, because again, board of directors are diverse people with different backgrounds. A lot of board of directors, they have lawyers, they have other, leaders from other companies or other nonprofit organizations. They have, it's a range of people. So even though I said, right, you want to be able to create a network that share, somewhat of your values. You also want to make sure that they're, somewhat diverse, that they can offer you different perspectives. So for example, I am, my board of directors is made up of someone who is my thought partner. So someone who I can go to, and they are more than happy to listen to me just share my ideas on, on what's going on in my head. And they are more than happy to just listen and to give me feedback. I have another person on my board of directors who is an entrepreneur. I've recently, with Indy Networking, I'm in my entrepreneur journey. So I have a mentor for that, getting their perspective. What has been their experience with launching their own business as well? What advice can I learn from them? And then I have someone else more personal, right, who is someone, who is willing to just balance me out, because I do so much for the community. I need to make sure that I'm also doing things for myself, right? So I have someone who is checking in on me, is and or checking me and making sure that I am taking a break from everything that I'm doing, right? So again, what does your board of directors look like, right? What do you need in your life, depending on where you're at, in your career? I will say, and it's okay, you will outgrow your connections. And what that means is that some of your connections start as like mentors, someone who you're learning from, who you're getting advice and guidance from. And then eventually, this has happened to me, and eventually they just become your friends and you just are now getting drinks with them and just catching up on life. And that's okay. Your board of directors, your network should be evolving as you are transitioning in your life, especially in your career, right? Especially if you're someone who is an early career professional who is just starting out, right? You'll need a specific type of support versus if you're someone who is ready to be a leader, to ready to manage people, right? You're going to need a different set of network to lean on, right? So again, keep that in mind that your network can change and can evolve. Next is career advancement. I think this is more, of course, like I said earlier, access to opportunities. It does, you know, give you access to certain jobs that maybe you didn't even think of applying for or didn't even know existed, right? But when I talk about career advancement, it's more also about internally as well. So depending where you work at, um, making sure that your leadership, that your supervisor knows who you are and what your goals are is super important, right? So networking does not only mean networking outside of your job, but it also means making sure that you're maintaining good relationships with your supervisor and with the leadership team there. So once again, career advancement, it's all about, do they know what you want? Do they know that you're interested in leading? Do they know that you want a promotion in the next 1 to 2 years? Do they know that you want to leave? And that's okay because it's a small company and you don't see a lot of, upward mobility, and they know that. So they're willing to support you in that, right? It's all about making sure that you're communicating to people who you are and what you're all about. And I'm going to continue saying that because what's key about all of this, if you haven't catched on, is that you really have to know how to talk about yourself. You really have to know how to introduce yourself, and you really have to know how to share what your strengths are. And you really have to know what your goals are, right? And I know sometimes you're like, I'm just surviving day by day. I don't know what I'm going to eat tomorrow. I don't know, what I want to do within the next 1 to 3 years, right? But at least you need to understand, right? Like, what are you aspiring to be, to do? Do you want to stay in the same industry? Are you flexible? Are you willing to relocate? Those are like little things that people want to know so that once again, as they're thinking about you, when certain opportunities come up, they know like, oh, well, I remember Maria said that she is open to relocating and that she is willing to move out of the state of Indiana to advance her career, right? Those little things matter as you're having conversations with people that you're networking with. Lastly, personal growth. This is also huge for me. Like I mentioned, not everyone that you meet will necessarily become your friends, but you do end up meeting a lot of really cool people that you get inspired by their stories. You learn something new. They really give you access to just a new world. Like, for example, I'm not in philanthropy, but I know people in philanthropy. And when I have conversations with them about philanthropy, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I want to work in philanthropy. I want to be able to give money away, right? But I know it's so much complicated than that, right? And I get to know that. I get insight on that. Or personal growth also just means that because you are having access to these opportunities, you are expanding your knowledge, you do have a support system, and you are advancing in your career, you're as a person, right? You're just naturally growing. So these are 5 key things on how how you are willing to, really get a return of investment when it comes to networking. Any questions there or comments? Anything that sticks out to you or anything that you can relate to as you've connected with people? You're like, yes, like I have my job right now because I knew this person, or I have a great support system.
I got one.
Yeah, go ahead. Is that Brian? Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yep. Could we just call this like friendship and making friends, and this is how you maintain friendship?
Exactly. Networking is just a fancy word. I love that. Yeah, I love that because ultimately, Brian, like you said, that's what I've been doing. A lot of the people that I am connected to, that are part of my network, I call them my friends. Some have even become family, I like to say. And that goes back to the support system, right? Just like, right, usually you are very supported by your family, you're also supported by your community, and that is why I'm really big on authenticity, right? And I will say, this is something that I always like to take note of. Not everyone is going to be your cup of tea. You don't have to be or invest in a connection just because you feel like you have to, right? I will say, I've come across people who I'm really excited to get to know them. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've seen you on LinkedIn. Like, I love what you do. Like, can I learn more? This and that. And they don't give me that same energy back. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm not going to toot your horn anymore. And that's okay. If you want to entertain it, you can, right? Personally, I just kind of, back up, and I'm like, okay, like it's okay. Maybe they don't want to be connected with me. They don't see the value that I bring to them, right? Because each of you do bring value to your connections at the end of the day, right? You have your own perspective, you have your own experience that you get to share with them as well, especially if you're meeting someone who is completely different from you, right? So that is something to keep in mind. Just like you don't want fake friends, I don't want fake connections either. So something to keep in mind, because I like to tell people, to kind of alleviate that stress, right, is that you don't have to build relationships with everyone. So thank you, Brian, for bringing that up. So this kind of, in a way wraps up, right, the impact when you intentionally network, right? Networking introduces you, but social capital sustains you. And when it comes to sustainability, right, we want to make sure that we're making and building sustainable relationships, because again, you never know when you're going to need someone's access, someone's influence throughout your career. So I know we have a couple of minutes. I definitely want to leave time for like questions and answers or comments. These, I'm not going to necessarily go through each of them, but these are your essentials basically for networking. Things that you have to keep in mind, that you have to be intentional about, and that you have to take initiative on, right? Winnie here, she can only do so much. She can only set this call up and provide you and introduce you to someone who knows about networking, right? Winnie can only, right, share with you the resources and the programs that they have to offer, right? But ultimately, you have to get it done, right? You have to take the initiative to really pick and choose what's going to be valuable for your career development, right? So first thing here, define your networking goals. Currently reflect on where are you at right now professionally. Are you looking for a mentor? Are you currently just breaking into the industry, right? So you're barely getting your certifications or your education, but meanwhile, right, you want to get ahead of the game and you want to connect with people in the industry so that you're setting yourself up for success, right? When you do pass those certifications and get your degree, right, you're prepared. You have the insight on where to go look for a job, who to connect to that's going to connect you to that person, right? So define your networking goals. What will be valuable? What will bring value to your life when it comes to networking, right? Second, build your personal brand. This is a whole other session. So Winnie, I don't know if you're bringing someone in for this, but that's a whole other session. But what I will say is be active on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account yet, be active on LinkedIn. Share with people, again, who you are, what you're all about, what you're passionate about. Share with people that you're currently in this program. Share with people your connection to Be Nimble, right? Be Nimble, right, is very known in the community, right? So when people see your connection to Be Nimble, right, people will be like, oh, like they're really leveraging that program, right? Like, you know, and I'm in tech, like I want to connect with them, right? So LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. I will definitely, oh, someone said I hate LinkedIn. I know. It can be hard, but hey, we have ChatGPT now. My techies here, we have ChatGPT now. So you can literally ask ChatGPT like, hey girly, like I'm just starting off and on LinkedIn, like what advice do you give me? Or can you help me create a LinkedIn plan, you know, post plan, right? Leverage your resources, right? But building your brand, yeah, the one thing I will say is if you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, open one up and start being active. Connect with me. I might kind of spam you because I am very, very active on LinkedIn, or I try to be. So if you're looking for examples of what does it mean to be active, or what do I share on LinkedIn, right? You can, you know, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. More than happy to, you know, have a conversation as well. Third, attend networking events, right? You have to put what you learn into practice, right? So everything you've learned here today about, you know, what does it mean to intentionally network? Go to these events, meet new people, get out of your comfort zone, right? I know a lot of people always ask like, okay, when I go to an event, right, what do I do? So one, going back to defining your networking goals, right? When it comes to attending events, if especially for my introverts, if your goal says, give yourself a goal. You're like, okay, today I'm going to go to a networking event and my goal is to, before I leave early, my goal is to meet 2 people. And that's what you do. You meet 2 people. And then after that, you give yourself permission to leave if you're an introvert, right? Now my extroverts, you know, you can do the same. Give yourself a goal. My goal today is to meet 2, 3, 5 people. Especially if you're a social butterfly, you probably can do that easily, right? So again, set your networking goal when it comes to attending events. Do your research. Who's going to show who are the people that are going to be at this event? Who's hosting it? And you know, yeah, I'm like, I think there was one more, but yeah, and who's hosting, and do that kind of foundational research of who's going to be there. That way you have an idea on how to show up. Oh, the last one was the agenda, seeing if there's an agenda. Is it an open networking event, meaning that there's going to be no interruptions and you're just going to be talking the whole time, you know, engaging with people? Is there going to be a panel? If there is, what is the topic? Do you want to ask questions? Connecting with the panelists. Usually they share and tag the panelists, so making sure that you're connected with them if you're interested. So those are things that you can do to intentionally get the most out of networking events. The fourth one, we already talked about this, follow up and nurture those relationships. And the last one, give before you receive. So again, really what that really means is doing your homework, you know, being intentional about making sure that you're following through with what people are willing to give you. So if they're willing to invest their time with you on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, be intentional about when you show up to those follow-up meetings, you have questions, you have an agenda of what you want to talk about, of what you want to get out of that conversation. Make their, you know, make their time worthy. Any questions or comments there? Okay. Well, okay, yeah, I'll send this to you, Winnie. This is kind of just a cute little flow chart of kind of asking yourself, like, where am I at? So are you the person on the left-hand side where you're like, where do I even start? Like, I don't even know. Are you the person that is like, well, I feel like I have a good network, right? But I want to expand on my network. Are you someone who's like, how do I get out of how do I get out of my current network, right? What can you do with the current existing network that you have? And of course, lastly, like, how do I sustain my network? So if you feel like you've really intentionally, right, have built a good network for yourself, being intentional about sustaining it long term is important. So I can share this with you, Winnie. That way you can kind of share it out with everyone. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I would love, if anyone has any questions or comments. I really appreciate, some of the comments and the questions that each of you have asked. But yeah, we have, I think, about like 8 minutes left. So if anyone has anything to share.
Also, Maria, if you have any events coming up that you'd like to share with our students, that would be awesome.
Yes, we definitely do. I think a great event. So I have a couple. So I have an event tomorrow. I know that might be kind of late notice. I do have a free event at the Stutz building August 7th. And Winnie, I'll definitely share the information with you. This event is called, it's open to everyone, and it's called Cheeseman Talk, Demystifying Networking. So
Really?
if you don't know Spanish, chisme means like tea, gossip, right? So I'm going to have a guest speaker, which happens to be my best friend. And as you know, with your best friend, you do a lot of chisme talking, right? So my best friend and I are going to really dive deep into, like, what does it mean to network authentically? What are the do's? What are the don'ts? And what just has been our experience with networking, especially as younger, early career professionals. Him and I started networking at such an early, young age. And so we feel very comfortable now networking, going to events, showing up alone, right? But again, I know that it takes time to be able to get to that comfortability level, right? So we're just going to have a chat, and we're going to have open networking in the beginning and after the chat. So if you're interested in kind of just, once again, listening from someone's experiences on networking, this will be a great event. And then next month, I also have, again, open to everyone, National Latina Day. So National Latina Day is August 20th. So of course, celebrating our Latinas here in the community. There's going to be open networking, food, a panel, and it's going to be held at the Skyline Club. So yeah.
Awesome. This is so exciting. Please, can you, when you share the deck, and can you also send me the links to our SVP for those events? So making sure that I am giving the students all of the info they need. Do you guys have any questions, any comments?
Yeah, I need at least one person to just quickly share what their experience has been with networking, whether it's been bad, whether it's been good, or whether you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Anyone. Or if the concept is new to you, that's also fine. I think we just got some notes coming in. You guys are shy.
I know, right?
And
I can
okay.
share my experience.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just recently discovered that I'm an extrovert. Like, I thought for my whole life I was an introvert. So I was like, oh, this is new. But the thing is, I like getting to know people, and I like talking to people, but I never know what to say. So whenever I go to networking events, because for the program that I run, it's very important that I spread the word. But whenever I'm in front of someone new, I'm like, hey, what's your name? And they say their name, and I'm like, okay.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. So I really don't know. Do you have like any like icebreakers that you use when you're starting conversation with someone you don't know?
Yes, I will say one really great question to ask someone at an event is, what brought you to this event today, right? And people will usually share, oh, well, I'm part of the organization, or I'm the host, or a friend brought me, or I know someone that is hosting, right? So like that is a really great conversation. After, right, you introduce yourself, you give the spiel of, what company you work at and so forth, right? But asking what brought you to this event today, and then that leads to like, oh, like, do you I'm assuming you work in the industry, or have you been to other events hosted by them before, and so forth. So that is one key question that I tell people to ask. Kiana said, I'm really good with meeting people and getting a convo started. I just need to work on the follow-up and building the connection. Yes, awesome. Yeah, so if you're good with meeting people, like, you are at a great start, right? So following up will be key, especially, right, if they are someone that you're like, I need them, part of my community, part of my network. Awesome. Well, I won't hold you guys any longer. Winnie, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Please feel free to follow Indy Networking on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I'll share it with Winnie as well. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I am more than happy to, connect with you as well if you just want to chat and talk about networking.
This is awesome. Thank you so much, Maria, for your time today. Thank you guys for joining us. As usual, I'm going to send a recap email after this with some important information and all of the socials for Maria and Indy Networking. And I really hope I can see you again very soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Have a good night.
Justin.
Bye.